Hey guys, Curtis Alexander. I'm a pharmacist. In this video, let's try to answer the question, are calcium supplements good or bad? Now, obviously, it's not a cut and dry answer, but I want to point out some things that I think you need to consider before you move forward with calcium supplements. So first of all, obviously, when we talk calcium, we think bone health. Calcium is definitely an important part of bone health, but it's not the only thing. There's plenty of other things that come into play. For example, you can look at kind of the bone recipe or the ingredients that are in your bones that make them up. It's not just calcium. There's a bunch of things. There's potassium, manganese, magnesium, chromium, iron, sulfur, boron, zinc, silica, phosphorus. I could go on and on. It's not just calcium. So when you think bone health, we have to move beyond calcium, which brings up another good point. You have to start looking at cofactors. Okay, calcium does not operate in a vacuum. It needs other things to do its job. That's why when people say, oh, milk does a body good, it really does if it's high quality dairy, but not just because of the calcium, because it contains so many other cofactors as well. For example, calcium in your body is regulated by parathyroid hormone. It's also regulated based off your vitamin D status, also regulated off calcitonin. It also has an interplay with magnesium and a lot of these other nutrients that you need to get in your diet, not just through a supplement. Okay. The other thing is, in most cases, a lot of people already have calcification in their body, and that calcification obviously is made up of calcium, but what's going on there? Well, we already have very high amounts of calcium. A lot of foods are supplemented with calcium. When we have chronic stress in our life, which a lot of people do, it can lead to this calcification issue. So really the key there is stop thinking so much in calcium and start thinking about regulating, for example, sodium and potassium, because when sodium is coming into the cell, potassium leaves. It's called a sodium potassium pump. Okay. But when that happens and we have that calcification and that stress, calcium can get into the cell when it shouldn't at that point because we're not regulating sodium and potassium. Well, how do you regulate that? Well, you do it by eating a whole food diet. You don't do it by supplementing calcium. So again, we're focused on this one nutrient we want to be. So we want to regulate things more naturally. That happens through diet, supplementation. The other thing, let's talk about our kidneys. As calcium increases, whether it's through all the supplementation in our food or you're taking a calcium supplement itself, your kidneys have to handle that excess calcium. To do that, they have to bring in more magnesium. And as they do that, that leaves less magnesium for your adrenal function. Okay. If your adrenal function suffers, you can run into things like adrenal fatigue, poor thyroid function. So again, more does not equal better with calcium. Right. And the last thing is that I wanted to talk about is, in my opinion, you should be able to get all the calcium you need through a whole foods diet. Okay. You shouldn't need to supplement. Again, this does not make calcium bad. It's just, we have to move our focus away from calcium to we need calcium, but we need the other cofactors. You won't need as much calcium if you're consuming other cofactors, and the foods that you eat are naturally full of these cofactors for a reason, just like dairy. Dairy has a lot of calcium, but it has a lot of other cofactors as well that help calcium do its job, but it has to be high quality dairy. So that would be one. You could eat things like sardines, and sardines aren't your bag, and things like squash contain it. Even a mineral water like Gerald's here, if you were to look at the label, it contains a very, robust amount of calcium. The problem with some of these mineral waters is that they've been shown to contain some radioactive isotopes and stuff, low levels of that. So just look into that. But the point is, there are plenty of options to get calcium in your diet, but stop thinking about calcium just by itself. You need the other cofactors. You need a well-balanced whole food diet. So are calcium supplements good or bad? In my mind as a whole, they're probably more bad than good. I would tread very lightly about doing it. And I don't care who you are. If you take calcium supplements long enough, you're going to run into issues. And one other thing I forgot to mention, most calcium supplements that I've seen contain garbage fillers. silicone dioxide, those sorts of things. I've made a video on fillers that are in supplements that you want to avoid. So go check that out if you want to learn more about those. But a lot of supplements do not have good ingredients in them, so they're best avoided. So in my opinion, most calcium supplements should be avoided. Let me know in the comments other topics that you'd like me to cover that would be helpful. This is a prime example. This was a question from a viewer. I give preference to people who subscribe and who also go and grab my free checklist. Talk a lot more about some of these topics on my website. There's a link in the description, so go check that out. Always helpful, guys. See you in the next one.